Port helps me share more real stories like this. Stories that challenge us, shape us, and sometimes change us forever. Now, let me take you back to the night everything shifted. There are moments in life that don't ask for permission. Moments that arrive quietly yet shake the ground beneath your feet. One decision, one step, and everything you once believed to be stable begins to crumble. That night was exactly that for me. For a long time, loneliness had been living inside me like an uninvited guest. Days turned into weeks, and weeks became years. And somewhere in that long stretch of time, I stopped feeling alive. I was 54, but deep inside I felt decades older. My heart felt worn. My spirit felt empty. My marriage had become a place where emotions came to die. Albert, my husband of many years, had faded into a different version of himself. A quieter one. A distant one. A man who existed in the same house, yet moved around as if I were invisible. He was 65, and most days, I found him sleeping on the couch, drifting in and out of a shallow slumber that seemed to control more of his life than I did. If not on the couch, he spent nights shut away in his study, a place that had become his retreat, his refuge, his escape from me. But the truth was that I too had been fading away, day by day, silence by silence. The house felt like a prison. Every room echoed with things I wanted to say but couldn't. The weight of being unseen, unheard. It grew heavy enough to crush the strongest soul. The sadness had turned into frustration. The frustration into anger. And the anger into helplessness. I wanted him to look at me. Just once. Not as a burden. Not as a memory. But as a woman he once chose. But Albert didn't see me anymore. And so, on that night, something inside me snapped. My hands were trembling when I picked up my phone. Not from fear, but from a kind of emotional exhaustion that no words could describe. I dialed a number I never thought I would dial with such desperation. Hector. Albert's nephew. 27 years old. Young. Energetic. Attentive in ways my husband hadn't been for years. He was the only person who had looked at me and actually seen something. Not pity. Not indifference. But understanding. When he answered the phone, I could barely steady my voice. Hector, come here. Take care of your uncle. I'm leaving this house. The words came out of me like a storm breaking. Did I mean them? I'm not sure. Maybe I wanted to leave. Maybe I wanted someone to stop me. Maybe I simply wanted someone to acknowledge that I was drowning. But Albert wouldn't stop me. That much I knew. He wouldn't even notice. He would simply continue breathing in the hollow silence he'd built around us. But Hector, he understood my loneliness in ways I hadn't explained fully. Maybe because he was younger. Maybe because he listened. Or maybe because he felt the distance too. The distance Albert had created not just from me but from everyone around him. Hours later, when I heard the front door open, I turned toward the living room. Albert was fast asleep on the couch, his mouth slightly open, breathing heavily, oblivious to everything, including the emotional hurricane occurring within the same walls. The sight of him, the indifference, the absence, intensified every emotion swirling inside me. But then Hector appeared. He didn't stand in the living room. He didn't wait in the hallway. He walked straight toward my bedroom door, as if he already knew where he was needed. I was trying to zip my suitcase, though my hands wouldn't stop trembling. I kept fighting with emotions that refused to settle. Anger, confusion, disappointment, fear. And beneath all of it, an ache so deep it felt like a wound inside my chest. I don't know what I wanted. Reassurance? Comfort? Someone to just acknowledge that I mattered? My thoughts were spiraling when I heard the soft click of my bedroom door opening. I turned slowly, and there he was. Hector. His expression wasn't distant like Albert's. Not tired. Not careless. There was concern in his eyes. Genuine, raw concern. But there was something else hiding there too. A seriousness. A weight. A question. Diana, he said, his voice firm yet gentle. You can't leave like this. I know you think you have no choice, but we can work through this. His words broke something inside me. Work through it. With who? Albert? The man who hadn't looked at me properly in months? I turned away from him, my voice cutting but no longer strong. Albert doesn't care whether I stay or go. Nothing will change. Nothing has changed for years. Hector took a slow step toward me. Not hurried. Not forceful. Just steady. Don't say that. You don't have to go through this alone. His voice carried a warmth I had forgotten existed. And for a moment, a long moment, something inside me stopped falling. I turned around, and for the first time that night I really looked at him. He didn't look at me the way family looks at family. There was intensity in his gaze, a depth that made time pause between us. But I pushed the feeling aside. This wasn't the time. This wasn't the place. And this wasn't the answer. Still, the room didn't feel as cold anymore. Hector took another step closer. His fingers brushed mine, barely, but enough to make me catch my breath. Diana, he whispered. Don't leave because of something you feel only tonight. You're hurting. You're tired. And you're not thinking clearly. He meant well. He always had. But I wasn't confused. I was exhausted. Emotionally starved. Invisible in my own home. I'm not staying for Albert, I said quietly. Not anymore. Hector froze. His eyes shifted slightly, a flicker of panic, of guilt, of uncertainty. He thought he had crossed a line. He thought he had crossed a line. I didn't. Not tonight. Not anymore. Hector, I said, my voice calmer than before. I'm done begging for attention from a man who hasn't given me any in years. He looked down at the floor, unable to hold my gaze. My words hit him harder than I expected. You've always deserved better, he murmured. You've always been more than what he sees. There were words he wanted to say but didn't. I didn't push him. I already knew. Albert was leaving on Saturday. 2 days away. Until then I told Hector to stay calm, stay quiet, stay normal, just a nephew visiting his uncle. Hector didn't question my request. But I could see it in the way he walked around the house, the way he looked at Albert, the way he looked at me. He felt everything I felt. And those 2 days felt like walking in slow motion. Albert didn't notice a thing. Not my packed suitcase. Not the tension in the air. Not the frustration in Hector's clenched jaw. He didn't even notice me. But Hector did. Every second. Every shift in my breathing. Every quiet sigh I tried to hide. Every thought that crossed my eyes when I didn't speak. Emotion was building like a storm neither of us knew how to name yet. But the day that mattered, the one that would change everything, was Saturday. Albert packed early in the morning. Not once did he ask where I'd been emotionally these last days. Not once did he look at me with the slightest curiosity. He simply walked past me with his suitcase as if I were a decorative object in the hallway. Hector drove him to the airport. I assumed he'd return quietly. I assumed nothing would change until the evening. But I was wrong. Because when Hector walked through the door later that day, I knew instantly that something had shifted inside him. His expression wasn't warm. He wasn't calm. His eyes were burning. Something had happened. Diana, he said, his voice sharp, tense. He didn't remove his coat. He didn't sit down. He walked directly toward me like a man holding too much inside. I sat on the couch, remaining still. What happened? I asked. Hector shook his head, angry, frustrated, trying to process something he didn't want to say out loud. You were right, he finally said, breathing heavily. About what? I already knew, but I needed to hear him say it. He swallowed, and then the words came quickly, as if they'd been building all morning. He said he'll be back Monday morning. He's leaving the country to go hunting with